Okay, Samara, thank you for meeting me. I appreciate that
Yeah,
you're taking the time to out of your Sunday to sit down with me and to talk about the lesson.
yeah, no
If you
problem.
want to go ahead and get started.
Well, yeah, first of all, how did you think the lesson went, in your opinion?
Uh, it was it was an okay lesson. It wasn't the best lesson I've ever taught. It wasn't the worst lesson I've ever taught. I mean, at this point, I've been teaching now for coming up on 5 years. So I do have a decent amount of experience, and I've taught plenty of very good lessons and more not so good lessons than I would like to admit. So yeah, this was probably somewhere in the middle. It was fine. Yeah, there were definitely things I would change, and we could certainly talk about that. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, in the process of like watching yourself teach and editing the video, how did that feel? How was
It
that?
It was weird. I was actually just talking to a friend a little bit ago saying this person has been in is a TA and has been in a lot of my teacher assistant has been in a lot of my classes. And so she has seen me teach more than I've seen myself teach, which is kind of funny. And so yeah,
Mhm,
watching myself, it was strange, honestly.
mhm,
I yeah, I just kind of picking up on and seeing some of I guess just like my mannerisms and my speech and just like the pauses in speech, the ums and the likes. That was really weird and uncomfortable. And I
mhm,
realize I do that in daily speech, but especially being in the class and admittedly too having a camera on me and knowing that I'm being recorded. Obviously, I'm I tend to overthink things just in general in my everyday life. And
sure.
so to have a camera on me and thinking, okay, I do this every day, multiple times a
Yep.
day in school, and yet this is different
Mhm,
because again, I have a camera on me. This is strange. And so I was definitely more, I guess, aware. I was very aware of the camera there, at least at first, and eventually I kind of eased into it a bit. But yeah, it was pretty strange just for me, like in the moment, watching. It was my TA that was recording me, and so just seeing like, okay, I'm talking to the kids, they're all in front of me, and then I look up and there's a camera. It was my phone
yeah,
recording me. Was very strange. So yeah,
yeah.
it wasn't the most comfortable. Like I said, eventually I did kind of get used to it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm hopefully you'll get more comfortable with the camera or just start like forgetting that it's
Yeah,
on as this
yeah.
process goes on. But in the editing process, did you notice anything that you did like really well that you were surprised about?
Um, yeah, like I think I do a pretty good job of having like a good rapport with my students.
Hmm.
And so I hopefully that kind of showed in they're mostly respectful and there's times where they don't quite stop talking maybe as quickly
Hmm.
as I might like them to. But overall, I
Hmm.
think that that does kind of show that the at least even just like in kind of like the side conversations or just there the things you can overhear the students saying. I think I do have a really good rapport with my classes, in this class in
Hmm.
particular. And so hopefully that does kind of show at least a little bit in the video. So that was one thing I thought. And I guess that's not necessarily something I did in this particular class, but just in general. And so, yeah, hopefully that kind of showed. Yeah,
Well, one thing I noticed is that they're very like they're participating a lot. And
yeah,
when you ask
yeah,
them to do something, they're raising their hands, they're answering
exactly.
questions,
Yeah,
they're stretching, they're counting, and that's awesome. It
yeah,
would have been nice to, and I mean, this is not a you thing, this is more your the person recording to see more of the students,
okay,
especially during the
yeah,
stretching time, because I was just watching you stretch.
yeah,
And it would
yeah,
have
of
been a
course.
bit nice to see the students how they're responding to
Yeah,
that. So I can like hear them counting, but I can't see if they're actually
yeah, that makes
participating
sense.
or not.
Yeah, I
But I
can do
watched you
that. Yeah.
stretch.
Yeah, 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 it was hopefully it wasn't too weird. Because there was the part where I purposely sped up
Yeah,
the
yeah.
my counting and everything, and that was just to get the video under 20 minutes, because otherwise
Yeah,
it would
for
have been
sure.
way too long. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
but I wanted to
And
show
I
the
think
full stretching routine. So, yeah,
yeah. And I think that's the point of this video too, is to like work through those kinds of things. And so then you can ask teacher Ball to get some more footage of
yeah,
those kids in the
yeah,
next
yeah,
video
I
because
can
that was
definitely do that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then you kind of already mentioned this in your editing process, like hearing the way that you communicate and your ums and stuff. But was there anything that you saw that you're like, oh, okay, I could really work on this?
Maybe just like, and I don't know, I think I could do a decent job of projecting my voice. And I guess part of it is just the sound quality in the gym is
Yeah.
not great. The acoustics in there are terrible. And
Yeah.
so I could try to project my voice a little bit more, but at the same time, I'm already kind of like talking loudly. The
Hmm.
main thing that I honestly thought was I forgot my whistle. Like of all days to forget my whistle, I did that day. And admittedly, it was because I'm thinking of recording, I'm thinking of fun, like all of
Hmm.
the stuff. I'm
Hmm.
thinking of everything else but what I normally do. And so I just left my office and it was about like I don't know, there might even be a point where I like reached down and oh gosh, like I don't have my and and because I'm so used to just like I do it all the time,
Yeah.
reach down and grab my whistle, and then this time, oh, yep, it's not here. Okay, of course, of all days, that it's like literally probably the only time all school year that I forgot my whistle, maybe one other time. And yeah, of course it's on the day I'm recording, but that's
Well,
something to think about. So
and it
to
is funny
improve on.
because one of the notes I wrote down was like, do you have a whistle or a call to
Yeah,
attention? Because, I see you every day. And I was thinking, I'm pretty sure that Brett always has a whistle around his neck.
always.
So
Yeah,
why is he
yeah,
not using that? So
yeah,
there
yeah.
you go.
That was my first class of the day. And so of that particular day. And so yeah, I didn't grab it because again, yeah, I was like, okay, I've got my notes and I've got my phone is charged and like everything is ready. And then I like, okay, I'm good to go. And then of course I forgot the
Yeah.
whistle. So
No.
anyway,
And that's just
that's
kind of
something
life.
going forward. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if we're going to start looking at the rubric, the
Okay.
first part is all about learner development. And so there was that really nice moment that you got with Logan, where you're
Yeah.
able to take the time with him and work on a specific skill. Are there other areas where you see that you're really working on their growth and development that you
Yeah. I
noticed?
mean, that moment was, yeah, because when I was watching the video, that was one where, and you could even see, like, at first, like, he couldn't do it. And then
Hmm.
after me just like showing him a little bit, he was able to do it. And I don't know how well, again, because the acoustics in the gym are so bad, I don't know
Yeah.
how well you can hear, but it's like, for me, that was like really kind of touching almost, where it's like he couldn't do something. You could even see he's like getting like visibly frustrated. And then
Hmm.
I show him, and then he was able to do it. And again, I don't know how well you can hear, but it's like I gave him some encouragement, like, see, man, like you could do this. You think you can't,
Hmm.
you're so quick to get frustrated. And yet, like,
Hmm.
just with a little bit of one on one instruction, like he was able to get it. And so that was
Hmm.
really kind of encouraging to me. And especially because in the moment there's so much going on and like you can even see all the
Right.
kids are playing around, it's I can't focus on like, wow, this was like a really feel good moment for me, but
Yeah.
then watching
Hmm.
back was like, oh wow, like all right, he actually did like make some notable improvement in the moment. And that was kind of like, yeah, it was like, okay, it sort of makes it so it's like, oh, I'm not just here to watch them
Yeah.
play, but it's like I'm actually here to teach them and all that. So that was kind of a nice moment. So yeah, that's something that
Yeah.
definitely stood out.
I
Yeah.
thought that was a really special moment too. And I think that was one of the best parts for me when I did this to watch. And because, like you said, when you're in it, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily realize what's happening. And so you
Yeah.
having to go through and edit these videos and watch it, you're like, okay, wow, I am
Yeah.
really helping my learners
Yeah.
develop. And
Yeah.
even if you're just looking at one out of the 26, it's really nice for that one student to have that moment.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was
That was
that
good.
was nice. And then learning differences. I mean, when we come to PE, there's going to be lots of learning differences. Be
Yeah.
there, obviously, the language, and that class has a lot
Yeah.
of low level English. But
It
then
does.
also, some kids just could care less about badminton
Also
or
that. Yeah.
sport. And
Yeah.
so,
Just PE class in
how do
general.
you
Yeah.
just PE in general? So,
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
try to meet those learning differences?
So I give the students, I think, and I did say it in the video, in the lesson, that if there's anybody who is not comfortable, because that was the second badminton lesson that we did, and so the first
Mhm.
lesson was just keeping the shuttlecock in the air, just like hitting it and keeping yourself hit in the air, and then this time, of course, was them hitting to a partner. And so
Mhm.
I did say that if anybody is not comfortable yet with hitting, and especially serving, is and you saw it with Logan, like he couldn't even serve. And like that's obviously a very important part of the
Mhm.
game is knowing how to serve. And some of them do really need a lot of work. And so I do try to differentiate for those kids who are, yeah, who maybe aren't quite so good. With the ones who just don't care, that is admittedly difficult. And one of the things I try to do is I think of my class obviously working on the skills like hand-eye coordination, foot-eye coordination, gross and fine motor skills. Those are all specifically among the standards, and like the standards are those things all stretched out. But if those kids like if for those, and there's a few in the class who just want nothing to do with PE, I tell them it's like, look,
Mhm.
even if you don't want to do anything, like still stretch with us, still warm up. So you're
Yeah.
getting at least some exercise, and then just even go like I'll have them go upstairs in the gym and just walk around the bleachers just doing circles because it's like at the very
Wow.
least like even if you're not directly participating whatever you're not working necessarily on your hand-eye coordination, which obviously is not ideal, but at the
Mhm.
very least like you're doing something. You're not just like sitting and just watching everybody else play or just like doing just talking to your friend or whatever. Like the very least, like, okay, you're at least somewhat active. And that is what I try to do for those kids who, and like I said, in that class, there are a few who just they just couldn't care less about PE. And that's
Right.
fair. And I get that. I don't take it personally or anything like that. Um, but
Mhm.
yeah, I just try to at least give them, it's like, all right, be active. The point of of PE class in general, is physical education. Just do something. Don't just sit. You sit all day. So do something.
Okay, yeah, that's better
Yeah,
than having to fight with them all the time.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
did make note because I noticed when you asked the students about their comfort level. Do you
Yeah.
feel like the students are brave enough to be honest if they're not
I think they
comfortable?
are. Yeah, because I did get a
Um,
few thumbs down.
okay,
And some of them, and it's funny because some of them almost they're like, I don't want to even say that they're too honest as much as just like I think they doubt their own abilities like a little too much because there's
yeah,
some that like they gave a thumbs down and it's just like I saw you like you weren't really that bad like maybe and I think maybe they even just hold themselves to a higher standard than
hmm,
it's like guys, especially if like badminton is admittedly very popular in Thailand, and so a lot of them
hmm,
have played before, and so maybe they're
hmm,
used to seeing like, oh, I can do better, or I've seen my friends play and I see how good they are, and I'm not there, so I
hmm,
give a thumbs down, even though it's like, well, you were still able to like have at least like a one or two volley back and forth. So it's like they were almost like I said, almost discounting their own skills. And even if okay, sure, you're not the best in the class or even the best among your friends, but like you could still hit it, you're still making contact. So
right,
yeah, I think overall, I think yes. And again, as with the caveat of like almost like maybe doubting themselves a little more than they should.
okay. And this was another moment where we couldn't really see the students' responses. So you said there were a lot of thumbs down.
I mean, there was a few. It wasn't a lot, but it was like more than I want to say there was probably at least like three or four
Okay.
who were giving a thumbs down to that. And so yeah, that's kind of what if I remember correctly in the moment. There was at least a few. So yeah. So I do think they are willing to be honest.
Okay.
Some more than others, of
For
course, but yeah, overall, yes.
for those then that gave themselves the thumbs down, like you mean you just said that they're probably being too hard on themselves, but did you
I
have
mean,
like a moment of review or like, okay, I see a couple thumbs down, we're gonna practice this for a minute and then we're gonna go on to step two?
yeah, so that was something that I did do like in the next class, like those that didn't and it wouldn't be the one that I recorded, but
Yeah, yeah.
it was the next class we did. Yeah, we I would have
Mhm.
talked about that. Actually, it was the next one. Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, anyway.
No,
So
that's fine.
it's
It's just
yeah,
mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's fine because we can't see the kids'
Yeah, of
responses, so
course.
I
I
just assumed
understand
they
that.
all said yes, and so then we
Yeah.
just go on.
Yeah, there was yeah, like I said, there's probably like three or four that probably did. So yeah.
Oh.
I
And
think overall
then,
they were fine. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
yeah, this was more just a thought that I had. You have one of the Rolly whiteboards,
I
correct?
do. Yes.
Yeah.
And
And so,
I actually do
oh,
use it. I
mhm.
use it pretty regularly. It's just in that lesson in particular, I didn't. But I do
Yeah.
use it with some regularity. So yeah,
Okay, yeah. That was one of my questions, especially with because you went over a lot of vocabulary, which I
yeah,
mean, that was nice to see. And so I thought maybe having like the visual
that
whiteboard.
is a good idea. I actually haven't.
Yeah.
It's funny because I review vocabulary all the time with things, but I've actually never thought to. I usually use the whiteboard for other like just yeah making notes and like whenever we do like a tournament or something like there's matchups or something, I will
Mhm.
use the whiteboard. And I actually yeah it's kind of funny because I actually haven't thought to use it for vocabulary, but that's something that I could definitely see myself doing in future lessons. So yeah, that's a good suggestion. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it because it was nice to see the vocabulary and they did a really good job, but the ones that are shouting out are probably your higher English
Of course, yeah,
level
yeah,
kids. And
definitely,
so if
yeah. And if you
you had like,
hear yeah, if you
yeah,
hear the voices, like if you know the student, like I
yeah.
as I was watching the video, I was like, okay, that's and I knew exactly who was answering and all of that. And it is like
Hmm.
probably the same like five students or something like that who are
Right.
giving out answers. So yeah.
It's not Tina. It's not,
Yeah, it's
the
not
quiet
yeah,
one.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Serenity's not really
But
talking, but yeah.
yeah, and you're doing badminton across all of the grade levels right now. So having like
Yes.
shuttlecock in a picture, having racket in
Yeah.
a picture could
Yeah.
just
No,
be a
that's
little tiny bit of
yeah.
scaffolding.
Yeah. No, that's good. I appreciate that. Keep that in mind. And yeah,
Mhm.
especially like when I do my future lessons, we'll do one more badminton lesson, but then after that, we'll switch units, and so then there's going to be, of course, all new vocabulary. So that is definitely something I'll keep in mind to do. It's a good idea.
Yeah. Mhm. The next standard is all about learning environments, and you've already talked about the gym. It's so echoey.
Yeah,
We've mentioned the whistle, and I was just like, I
yeah,
really think he has a whistle. So like,
yeah,
obviously, a whistle would be helpful, or some sort of call to attention. Is there anything
yeah.
else about learning environments that you can think of?
Well, so like I started outside, and I think I
Yeah,
even make an annotation about this, is because it's not so much that class, but my other classes, I purposely start outside because as soon as we go in the gym, the kids just want to like they see this big open space and they just want to start like running around and
yeah,
being crazy. And in the past, there's actually been some incidents where someone kind of not like got seriously hurt, but someone like got hit when it just didn't need to happen because people are so crazy. And so that's why I
yeah.
purposely made the choice of like making sure that they're calm and listening.
Mhm.
They know exactly the course of the
Yeah.
lesson. Like, all right, we're going to stretch and warm up, then we're going to go do this. And okay, guys, go in, sit down on 3 point line. Or in this case, it wasn't 3 point line. It was just in, like off to the side. But, or actually, no, it was, they did sit on the 3 point line for this one. Um, so yeah, I just making sure that they know exactly what is expected before we go in the gym and before they go in this big open space that they all want to go crazy and run around.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a very conscious choice on my part to
Hmm.
not have them immediately start class in the gym.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's a really good choice that you make. And that was another moment where I thought that the use of the whiteboard, because your whiteboard has
yeah.
wheels, and so
Yes,
you
it
could
does. Yeah.
even have the whiteboard outside with, because I think you can
Mhm.
flip it. There's one side and the
Yeah.
other side, and
I can
have
like turn
like,
it around. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And you can have like, okay, this is the schedule of what we're going to do. We're going to
mm,
calm down. We're going to go and we're going to stretch.
yeah,
We're going to review, da, 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 then we're going to do this. I like to do that with my students so they have an exact idea of what is
yeah,
going on. And I feel like it like helps the chaos be minimal because
yeah,
they know what I'm expecting, they know what they're going to do, and then we can just transition. And so it was another
yeah,
way that I thought we could or you could make use of the whiteboard. Plus, it turns the outside because that's where they're lining up. A lot of times you have them right after a break or whatnot.
yeah,
So it turns outside into a classroom, just having
yeah,
that whiteboard there. All of
yeah.
a sudden, it's
That's a
like,
good.
oh, I'm in class.
Yeah,
I
no,
just,
that's a good idea. The only thing, moving it outside and moving back inside is kind of a pain. But
okay.
it is not, but yeah, I will definitely make more use of it in the future and like in future lessons and
Mhm.
everything. That's a good, yeah, like I said, I do use it and I will
Uh-huh.
use it for future badminton lessons, but, because we're going to do for the next lesson, we'll do a tournament. And
Mhm.
so I will definitely use it for that. But
Mhm.
um, but yeah, it's good to, yeah, like I said, of all things, I didn't think just to use it for vocabulary. That's a really good idea. And I like the idea what you said about just like, okay, this is a classroom, even though it's we're outside or whatever it is, or
Mhm.
even in the gym, it's like it definitely gives it more of like a classroom feel. There obviously some familiarity to their normal classroom.
Exactly. Yep. It's like a
Yeah.
signaling. They don't
Yeah.
necessarily know that, but
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
whiteboard. We're in
You see a
class. This is not
whiteboard,
just
we're in class now.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. That is one of
Mhm.
the things, like, as a PE teacher, it's like I get to have the fun class, which is awesome, but there's other times where it's almost like, "Okay, guys, we're having, like, too much fun," and by that, I mean, like, they're just too crazy. It's like, "Alright, guys," like, I'll say this, I don't think I said it in this lesson, but I've said it to many of my classes in the past. It's just like, "Okay, guys, I'm glad we're having fun, but we need to kind of bring it down a little bit." And so that's a good, like you said, a signal to like, all right, guys, this is still school. We're still in class right now. So yeah.
And quite honestly, a lot of times, I'm not all the times, but a lot of times the kids that are not interested in PE, I'm going to talk in like generalizations, are girls and sometimes a bit more academics, where
Yeah.
the people that are really into PE are going to be your cadets, your boys that like
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
really want to learn. And so bringing just that simple thing of bringing in the whiteboard signals to those girls that this is a
Yeah.
class,
This is
there is
class. Yeah.
learning, and
Yeah.
it could even spark that like, oh, I'm going to get a grade,
I do
which
get a grade
makes
for
them
this.
have a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. This isn't just
Yeah.
me running around on the playground. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I just think about myself, and I hated PE as a student. I'm sorry, I did.
No, it's fine.
But I liked grades. And
Yeah.
so if I'm like, oh, there's going to be a test, I better know everything. Not that you do tests,
Yeah.
but it just is this like
Yeah.
weird subconscious signal that could help motivate
Yeah.
less athletically motivated kids.
Yeah. 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 No, that's good. I appreciate that. That's good to, I'll definitely
Mhm.
keep that in mind.
But as far as like creating a safe, positive learning climate and learner centered, I think you did a good job with that. The kids, I mean, I know from experience, they love you. Yeah, they do really good with
I
that.
appreciate that.
Yeah, the norms and procedures, it seems like you do have a pretty consistent routine,
Yeah.
and they know the routines. So beyond that, it goes to standard four, which is content knowledge, which
Yeah.
is using your explanations, academic language. That's, different when it's PE class because you're
Of
not
course.
going into biology and whatnot. But I feel like you
Yeah.
did a good job with your vocabulary and doing that and building on students' prior knowledge. So I think you did a good job. I mentioned the potential for a review if there were a lot of kids that said
Yeah.
thumbs down, like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to take 3 minutes, we're going to review this, and then we're going to go on. So,
Yeah.
but otherwise, application of content, you did a good job because you're doing badminton, you have hands-on,
Yeah. Yeah.
hands-on
Yeah.
material, they're able to actually use what they're learning. And was there any assessment in this lesson?
Uh, just like, so it was just mostly like me watching them, and seeing like where they are, because that is the one thing about PE that is, it's not like formal, like written assessment, but it is just like it's so visual that it's like, all right, it like, okay, we're demonstrating a serve, like, can you do it or not? Like, it's pretty straightforward. So that's a lot of my assessment is just visual,
Mhm.
especially in this lesson, and then just seeing like throughout the unit, just seeing improvement. It is actually really encouraging, not for badminton, but the units I did before were very specifically focused a lot on throwing and catching, and I
Mhm.
noticed there's a very marked difference from when, like, how they were when we started doing the throwing and catching to where they were at the end. It was like a very noticeable, like, oh, these kids, some of these kids could not throw and could not catch. And I'm not saying they
Mhm.
made like, oh, suddenly they're, ready to, be professionals or anything, but like there was a noticeable difference, and it was encouraging again for me to see that. So again, not so much this lesson, but I have like just seeing, like, when I'm assessing visually, it's like, okay, yeah, there is improvement. And so yeah,
Mhm.
there is something, it's like, okay, I'm actually doing some work that's good, making improvement. So
Yeah. Have you thought more about what you're going to assess for your data evaluation? I mean, we know you're going to do vocab and collaboration.
Yeah.
Have you made a decision
So
on the other?
I did, so I did vocabulary. I gave them actually a pre-assessment quiz. So I do
Mhm,
actually have percentage grades for that. And
mhm.
then for the topic, it's just going to be kind of just like general fitness. And
Okay.
then,
Mhm.
but yeah, but I am gonna assess them somehow. I actually do need to figure that out. I actually just messaged the my instructor yesterday, or she got back to me yesterday and told me that I have to have something for that. So I am going to have to figure out exactly how to do that. But I will have
Mhm.
some sort of um, assessment for that.
Yeah.
So
Again, we talked about this previously, but it could be something that you do in your stretching, since that's something you do every day or
yeah,
every class period, regardless of your topic. And so holding a plank, or I don't know, your
yeah,
sit-ups or jumping
yeah,
jacks. I don't know, but
yeah.
something that you already
I
do
yeah.
regardless.
So I
Yeah.
have done in I do it at the end of the year. So I usually I will do it where I will, and it's stuff again, yeah, stuff exactly what you said, like doing how well can you do jumping jacks? Like we do these every day because some of the kids, and again, I know you can't really see it in the video, but when we're doing jumping jacks, some of them are actually doing like really good jumping jacks, and some of them are just not.
Oh,
And
sure.
it's not so much that they don't know how to; it's just that they aren't trying. But I guess maybe some they think that that's adequate or whatever. And so I do like and again, it is visual, but it's like
Mhm.
that's something like I could come up with a rubric of like jumping jacks. Like, okay, your feet are going apart as your hands are coming all the way together above your head, and that kind of thing. Your arms are coming all the way up and not because some of them will just
Yeah.
kind of like come like this or whatever. I know it's blurry, but
Mhm.
coming up like this or yeah, just doing different movements like skipping, jumping, hopping, all of that, where I can actually
Mhm.
like I'm viewing them, physically viewing them doing it, and I will give them a score. And I mean, admittedly, when I'm giving them a score, it's kind of based a lot on how well they do compared to their classmates. But yeah, I guess I could come up with not. I guess I definitely could come up with a rubric of just like,
Okay.
okay, one foot is coming up high enough, or just whatever the movement is.
Mhm.
I could definitely do
Mhm.
something like that. So yeah, that's
You could
something to keep in
even,
mind.
if it's like sit-ups, you could have, I don't know, what is a good number? 30 sit-ups. How long does it take
Yeah,
for you to do them? Or
I
15?
haven't
I don't know.
I haven't taught
Something
sit-ups
like
yet because they are
that. Okay.
difficult, but I understand your point. The point stands that yeah, like there's
Something
what
where
is
it's
like an
like,
adequate number of, or like how long is a plank, a
uh
decent plank and that kind of thing. Yeah,
where you
yeah,
can measure the same thing each
exactly.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And your lesson plan was good. I mean, I think lesson plans are pretty individual. I do mine a bit differently. I like to think through all of my transitions, which ends up being a really long lesson plan.
yeah,
But if you know your routines, maybe at least writing them out one time in a very like,
yeah,
this is how I'm going to move them from outside to inside, and like going through the specifics at least once, so you're really thinking through all of that. But then after that, I don't know, lesson plans are so individualistic, it's hard to tell someone to do it
yeah,
your way,
yeah,
because what
yeah,
works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. But otherwise, like you planned well, you knew what you were doing, you had your routine, you had your materials. That was good. The instructional strategies, uh I think again, all I really wanted was, yeah, your whistle or your just call to attention, because there was that
yeah,
moment, we've already discussed this, it's not a big deal, but there was that moment everybody's doing everything in the
yeah,
echoey gym,
yeah, yeah,
you have something to say, and it's like, how in the world are you going
yeah,
to get them to hear
yeah.
you without
And
something? So
that is the moment where I would reach for my whistle and use it.
exactly,
It's just, of course, in this instance, yeah, I just
exactly.
forgot
So
because, of course, I did.
not
But yeah, yeah,
not a big deal. But otherwise, I mean, like you said, I think it was a good class. There's not like much to say about it. It went
yeah,
well. You had nice moments. Nothing went horribly wrong.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I think you did a good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right.
Yeah. Was there
Um,
anything else you wanted to talk about?
no, I mean, I think we covered a lot. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have anything else that I can think of right now. And so I know we'll be doing this a lot, so we'll definitely have more to talk about in the future. So yeah. All
Well,
right.
good job.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah.